Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Pinball Arcade. So last time we played Party Zone, which could have been called Party Time. Today we're doing Terminator 2 Judgment Day. So this is pretty much the first hardcore license table in this curation. We did have Elvira, which is a license of a TV hostess. So it's really not that much of a license. And Phantom of the Opera is a license on the book, but that's kind of weird pick. Everything before then could easily be described as being inspired by a movie. Like Taxi probably is inspired by the movie Taxi, and Diner might very well be inspired by the movie Diner, and Whirlwind is clearly inspired by movies like Twister, but they didn't have the real licenses. Whereas Terminator 2 Judgment Day clearly is an actual license of Terminator 2. Odd that they wouldn't bother to make a Terminator 1, but also Terminator 1 is not particularly as good a movie as Terminator 2. But in all fairness, it still is probably the best, second best Terminator movie in a ever increasing list of Terminator movies. Uh, so yeah, this is another Williams table. We've been going through quite a few
Judgment Day.
Williams tables for the 90s, so Williams must have definitely had a pickup during that time. Terminator 2 Judgment Day is making quite an attractive noise. 1991 is unquestionably one of the greatest pinball tables of all time. Bold claims, okay. I've never actually played this table, so this might be quite the revelation for me. Designed by the legendary Steve Ritchie and based on the hit movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. Um, is that how you spell his name? Well, interesting. Uh, it includes several features that have become pinball standards. It was the first Williams table designed to use a dot matrix display, which is weird because I'm fairly certain we've seen other 1991 Williams table that had a dot matrix display, which makes me wonder if in the subcategory of years they are actually alphabetical and some tables we've played actually came out after other tables. 1991 is really not enough information. This would be needs more info on Wikipedia or needs citation if you just said 1991. There should be an exact date that this table was released on, uh, down to the day at the least. Um, it was the first to have a video mode feature. It was also the first to feature a swing out cannon that can be fired by the player using a specially designed gun grip launcher. With its dramatic music score, staggering lights and sound effect, breathtaking graphics, and speech from the one and only Arnold, this table brings thrills and suspense to T2, and suspense of T2 to life, and then some. 15,202 units were produced, which that is a massively high number. That is the probably biggest number we've seen so far. I do think I may have seen this table. Maybe I didn't actually play it though. So, yeah, there's a gun grip, which 1991's and invoking the idea of guns and pinball is controversial in part by itself. Maybe there's a kickback. It looks like there might be a kickback. Um, we've got the white and yellow uh, flippers with a center peg. You've got a robotic arm on both hands and an exoskeleton all here. Here you have the Terminator, the T1000. Although his eyes are kind of in the absolute worst place. I guess maybe at the angle you can see his eyes a little bit better, but feels like you could have easily just bent this ramp a little bit differently so it wouldn't show up. I love the concept here of having standing targets that would drop directly down into the in lane. It still feels like there might be a decent or angle in which you can drain into the out lane, but we've seen some standing targets that have been pretty bad. Over here we have Arnold. This is all drawn stylized. It looks like the T1 exoskeleton will line up. There's a sinkhole over here, which is one lock. There's a ramp up the highway chase scene. there is a floating helicarrier type vehicle that was supposed to, I believe, be in T2 Terminator 2 and was cut for budget. You have the Skynet command center, which loops back and ramps in an interesting way all the way back here. And then this angle here is the launcher. And so this turns and you fire with the gun aiming specifically for this head. So they are stealing the concept from Funhouse, but it works really well with a big liquid metal head and lots of exoskeletons. Looking at this table, if you hadn't seen the movie, it kind of feels like throughout the movie you would have seen multiple exoskeletons in the main timeline that the movie takes place in, and that's not the case at all. There, you maybe see an exoskeleton at the very beginning. The head is half a head, so you can see that behind there is a sinkhole that pops up and then launches towards this launcher. So pretty much you shoot here and then it may put you back in the launcher and then shoot here again. What this introduces, in particular the launcher, is that either the launchers will have to turn at an angle where if you don't pull the trigger, it will drop the ball down and drain out the center, so it can't lock a ball accidentally forever, because that's not what it's for. Or you put an auto launcher. The fact that you do have an auto launcher and a trigger means there's an auto launcher here and here, which means instant balls getting added to the multi-ball instead of you having to pull the plunger yourself. And you can see there's a full exoskeleton, partial Arnold Schwarzenegger, and full skinned Arnold Schwarzenegger. So he's got his face basically on this table a couple times, whereas the T-1000 actor gets second billing in the movie where he's the new ad. But I guess that probably is going to be the case with any Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, particularly a Terminator movie. So we shoot up this ramp, and I guess it just goes to the top lane up here. 3 seemingly almost perfect triangle bumpers. A lot of slingshots. I have been noticing more and more tables where you just run into a wall with the bumper areas and it bounces the ball back into the bumpers, but there aren't any real targets or anything to hit. Maybe that is a smarter move. At the very least, I would like to see bumpers positioned somewhat nicely, so for instance, if you came down this lane, it feels like you should be able to bounce the ball back up and down that lane several times. We have standing targets here. We have a ramp. Almost looks like there might be a trap door there, but I bet it's not. I bet that's just a metal cover to make sure everything is nice and connected and smooth. But we certainly have seen in other tables no need for metal covers, so I don't know if that's just there for visual reasons more than anything else. Okay, well, so far so good. Now this is just an LCD matrix screen though, so its video mode is not going to be full color or anything. Let's see what the flyers look like. This is one of the tables that also has legal notices included, so there probably would have been multiple negotiations going on here with Arnold Schwarzenegger's license and voice being added to the Williams table. So yeah. Yeah, that barely even looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger in the flyer. It's more dramatic depiction. Yep. And these flyers, not being able to zoom in and actually read what they say, they're kind of pointless. Yeah. Let's see what our standard goals are. Collect the database award, activate multi-ball, score a 1,000,000 point shot, earn an extra ball, and collect 10 million escape route award. all of those may be very easy because the
Judgment
score creep. So we're going to start in 2029. And the problem specifically with the trigger is there's no analog input now. So you still pull back the right stick when playing with an Xbox controller, but it's just a matter of
direct hit.
Timing on the targets.
Initiated.
There's the score multiplier up. That was fairly easy.
Take your best shot. Fire at will. You missed.
I'm not sure if the flipper would have triggered that, but I used the plunger. There's the database award.
Big point. Get out.
Well, as much as I like Arnold Schwarzenegger as an actor for an action movie, a star, and like most action movie stars, they're pretty much only good to be action movie stars.
Initiated.
There is a level of just absolute ridiculousness in the idea of getting a person, an Austrian man who can barely speak English and speaks with such a ridiculously thick, heavy accent, to be the voice actor to voice all the lines of your pinball table. I think if we all honestly were quizzed, we'd say we find Arnold Schwarzenegger to be cute as a kind of like a circus clown in his voice acting, not something we actually would want to hear long soliloquies with or long dialogue. Like, I wouldn't go as far as to say we're making fun of him, but we definitely are finding it comedic.
You are superior.
So 15 million on the first game. Immediately on the high score, which that then puts me at 218 achievements still to unlock, which goes to show. Yeah, the flipper does not launch the ball. I didn't think it would.
Lock sequence initiated.
Now there is in Star Trek The Next Generation similar scenarios where you have two launchers instead of just one launcher. I would kind of think you'd want Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor's voice on this table, and maybe you get the director, since he was such a famous director, to do the voice lines.
Point 1 secured.
I mean, anybody you pick is going to stand out as not Arnold Schwarzenegger, but you could get some lines of dialogue with some of the other characters. Like, let's face it, there's really not a full movie there if you just watch the parts that Arnold Schwarzenegger does in T2. There's nothing but fighting, no dialogue, no drama, no interaction. Those are the quieter moments that action movies often are lacking in need. And for a pinball table, maybe you can be all action all the time. That it does at a certain point seem to then play into the ADHD nature of pinball.
Direct video mode.
Well, I've unlocked video mode. There's doesn't feel like a lot of things to hit here, so all I think I really need to do is get
Secured.
a little bit
Video
better.
mode activated. Destroy everything.
Alright, so I'm supposed to just use the flipper to put the sights on there. Alright, notice how quickly multi-ball started there and how quickly the ball saver just launched the ball back in that direction when it drained immediately. That is a perfect example of where having a ball saver
Fire at will. You missed.
Right, so it is the flipper only. And there's some video playing during that time, but you really shouldn't pay attention to that. This is also kind of great example of what goes wrong with introducing video and basically adding a video game to a pinball game. Pinball has been for decades, up until this point, a physical manifestation of the complicated rules that you would expect in a video game. To then add video game on top of it is almost a betrayal of the history of
Direct hit.
of what pinball has been up until this point. But I can see that they had to do it. Even by this point, it would have been probably 30-to-1 ratio of arcade cabinets to pinball cabinets. And in all fairness, pinball cabinets only take up maybe this amount of space as 2, maybe 3 arcade cabinets. Plus, it's way easier to change the internals and reskin a arcade cabinet than it is to do a conversion kit on a pinball table and spice things up by having something new. Like, if you were building an arcade now, I imagine you could have a very standard arcade cabinet that would simply let you flip a switch to upload a different ROM to it.
Direct hit.
Sometimes these direct hits seem to just give me scores, and then that one time it gave me a video mode, so I'm not really sure where the skill shot element comes from.
Passcode secured.
I clearly need to get really good at hitting the ramp over here.
Video mode. Hurry up. Activated. Let's go. Go.
Yeah, hitting both of those ramps seems to trigger no less than
Direct hit.
like, it really seems to trigger no less than 5 or 6 different modes going the same far left and far right ramps.
Video mode activated. Destroy everything.
Alright, so this is all just a matter of moving the balls all the way, moving the things to the left and right. And because the video mode is such a big deal, they tie it directly into the beginning of multi-ball. interesting. I drained those other 2 balls fairly late. All I was really doing was focusing on the yeah, all I was really doing was focusing on the keeping the ball.
You missed.
Oops. If you go too far to the too far to the left, those side targets will definitely bounce the ball in a weird direction. It's been kind of a while since we've seen a table that has a side flipper, and having a launcher instead of a side flipper is
I'll be back.
a much more interesting thing. Let's see, what's a 1,000,000 shot? Each time you shoot to the left ramp, it lights the right ramp for 5 seconds. Shooting the right ramp scores 1,000,000. Each time you shoot the right, it lights the 1,000,000 points on the left ramp for 5 seconds. If you can get into a groove and keep alternating the ramp shots, you can score a lot of points. Okay. Automatically earned when you get 30 more. When you collect the extra ball escape route award. When you collect the extra ball database award. Or you destroy the box labeled EB in video mode. Refer to the escape route database awards for more. Escape route can score a lot of points and give some valuable awards. To collect an escape route award, shoot the left loop hard enough so that the ball lands in the eject hole. Landing in the eject route scores 10,000 points. The escape route awards are shown as a row of lamps. Completing each escape route eject hole shot collects the bottommost award. At the start of a new game, only the security pass lamp is lit. To light other escape route awards, complete the bank of escape route spot targets in the center. Which basically means I think I'm going to have to hit these spot targets a lot of times. But they are different awards, I think, too. And they may be randomized. Otherwise, let's see. Security pass is the first one, then hold bonus, then light return lanes, then multi-ball, then extra ball, then 10,000,000. Then over here we have 25,000, 250,000, all the way up to 5,000,000. Alright, well, I think I know what I'm mostly doing.
Day. Direct hit.
And I switched the skin.
Get out.
Yeah. I don't even know how to get to jackpot. There's some angles on this table. Like if you're gonna make a table that has this many ramps, you are gonna end up making a table with a fairly empty lower play field. And that is going to create a scenario where you can easily just have the ball drain out. And I still cannot get comfortable with the different angles on this tape in this game. There's just always one. It kind of slows the game down when you have to use the trigger launcher. Eventually they combine trigger launchers with regular old-fashioned analog flip launchers too, so they just put a electromagnet around the thing and it can automatically pull back the plunger. It's because you have to wait and wait for that target to line up, since you know it's always going to hit that middle light area. It also implies that a good player will wear out the middle standing target there. It does mean those side standing targets aren't going to get used very often, though, otherwise, because they are just at such a different angle.
Direct hit. Passcode secured. Lock sequence initiated.
Yep. I don't think I like the angles on this table, and I don't know how you particularly fix that.
Direct hit.
It is speeding up the skill shot each time I shoot for more points. You certainly could have a center sinkhole instead of 3 standing targets to hit and just make that quick change.
Judgment Day.
You could.
Direct hit.
You could bring some of the bumpers and stuff down a little bit lower and maybe have a more locked in upper playfield concept. Maybe have something going on. Honestly, I wouldn't be super upset if some tables did kind of squish down their backsides and made it so that it was not a full-length table. I wouldn't want dancing cactuses like Cactus Jacks, but if you had put dancing exoskeletons back there, the table may have played so much better. I would have been happy with that.
Get the extra ball.
Well, we're lining up extra balls, then immediately losing them. Even the standing targets on the right, though, do seem to bounce the ball back in weird angles. They probably should have been
Direct hit.
angled a little bit more instead of direct 90 degrees. Angled so that they bounce the ball upward. This feels like the slightly shorter Williams flippers. And there actually could be no real truth to that at all. It could be that all the Williams flippers are the exact same and they're all the exact same strength and it's all just in my head. But boy, does it sometimes feel like some flippers are weaker and sometimes they feel shorter. This is another one of those tables where there's a lot of... There we got extra ball. Yeah, if there were standing targets instead of just bumpers on the edges of the ramps, that might help.
Shoot the game. Direct hit.
I don't know if I can actually hit a 5 million skill shot. I like this top lane. It seems fairly easy to actually get where you need to go.
Silent alarm deactivated.
There's evidence of a kickback. I think getting that one alone locks. I thought for a second that might give us a full 3 rewards for getting in that sinkhole, but no. You can hit the standing targets, but you've got to get the sinkhole ramp.
Hasta la vista, baby.
I will applaud them for not saying the line "Hasta la vista, baby" over and over again.
You are superior.
And I have to also applaud them at the table saying I am superior, stroking my ego a little bit.
I'll be back.
It does feel like there's going to be some slightly tough challenges here.
Direct hit.
I need to get really good
Secured.
at the left ramp and keeping the ball in play in general with the right flipper. And I need to get really good at flipping up the center lane with
Hit.
the left flipper.
Passcode secured.
And see, at this point, I need to hit the standing targets in the center lane. And it's not just a matter of hitting one of them, which I guess you could have dropped that down to one. You never really see standing targets that get like wider or bigger. At a certain point, I guess that would just be a slingshot. And I guess the use of slingshots has pretty much been completely forgotten about.
Get out.
I really would prefer a table that let you hit something more often. Like, I want minimum 98% of the time when you shoot the ball up the center of the lane for the ball to actually come in contact with something, score at least 1,000 points, move the story forward and the progression forward a little bit, or do something. I like that you can get the score multiplier up. I feel like a lot of tables probably should focus more on making it easier to get the score multipliers up. Particularly for this table, since you're not starting at the top lane. That bit needs to be more helpful. So we kind of know what to do. It's just
Judgment Day.
a matter of pulling it off.
Direct hit.
Because you have a launcher, also it hits the ball in the exact same place every time. So you are fairly safe.
Checkpoint 1 secured. Lock sequence initiated.
So pretty much the first memorable scene in Terminator 2 is Arnold Schwarzenegger coming back into the past, and
Silent alarm deactivated.
that is not what's going on here.
Fire at will. Great shot.
It actually doesn't fire until you lower the flipper. Interesting. So there's seemingly two places where you're supposed to lock the ball doing that multi-ball.
Get the flash pot. Fire at will. You missed. Loads the cannon.
Just keep the ball in play. Try our best with that. I think one chase loop is probably not particularly that interesting. Come on, get a nice powerful shot up there. Or we can just keep the ball in play. That works too.
Vault key secured. Loads the cannon.
I assume you have only a certain amount of time to hit the sinkhole behind the exoskeleton skull. I suppose it is noticeable that there is elements to this table that you could have seen being added. For instance, the exoskeleton could have talked, and the mouth could have moved, and they chose not to go with that route. I think I've hit that left ramp as that right ramp as much as you can. There's a replay. Slash extra ball.
Get the extra ball.
So I'm hoping everything holds on the replay.
Shoot again. Direct hit.
There's the returns slash kickbacks. I guess it is noticeable that those terms are not standardized.
Let's go.
In a funny way, I suppose it's kind of nice that they're not standardized.
Go. Run. Go.
I don't feel like in 2021 there's been too many movies around the idea of running for your life either. That there might be room for something like that. Oh, there are movies like that, but they kind of come off as like horror movies more instead of action movies, or there's some bigger drama in it.
Video
Whereas
mode activated. Destroy everything.
seems like a good game will get you 8 Terminators, 8 or 9.
It's payback time.
Payback time. Seems every single thing on the table is flashing. Interesting. Wow. To have just everything on the table flash like this is kind of ridiculous. $68 million.
Fire at will. You missed.
I feel like it fires a little bit in a
Load the
delayed
cannon.
fashion.
Take your best shot. Fire at will. Nice shot.
But now the start multi-ball, it's making it, you may hit 2 targets. Missed that. Didn't really care to try too hard on that shot. If I can avoid just a quick drain out, which is a big if, I think all I need to do is hit the left lane a couple of times.
Direct hit. Don't move.
So, managed to get the ball on the other side of the thing. Yeah, I don't know if I can really transfer with these flippers.
Hasta la vista,
Yeah,
baby.
I'm having a real hard time trying to figure out a shot that would even get the ball. I probably just need to shoot it up the ramp on the right.
You are superior.
76 million. That I think puts me in first place with the high score. Nope, that puts me
I'll
in
be
third
back.
place. So we have a really high scoring table. Yep, and we've done everything except for
Judgment
hit
Day.
the
Direct hit.
left lane shot a lot.
Lock sequence initiated.
I like this table, and I don't think I played it ever before. I probably saw it and just didn't have any quarters at the time, which happened a lot. I spent a lot more time in arcades than I actually had money to spend, as I think most kids probably were in similar situations. Unfortunately, most arcades that I was in did not care one bit, so they would
Get that
not try
shot
and
off.
chase me away.
Fire at will. You missed.
It's weird that the multi-ball
Checkpoint
jackpot
one
really
secured.
only, your jackpot shot only happens after your multi-ball has already occurred. But I guess that is a way to try and stop the jackpot from getting scored multiple times. Although I'm not sure
Direct
very
hit.
many pro pinball players would like that as a concept, being limited not by skill but by just rules. And yeah, while I do like this table, I can certainly see the idea of it not being in my top 10, but making it to like a top 20. There's only a couple things to do.
Passcode secured. Lock sequence
It
initiated.
feels a lot like Taxi in the sense that there's just not, there's a figure 8 shot and a
Direct
few
hit.
other specific shots. And this table has less excuse for it to be that way because this is a much more modern table and it is definitely trying to have a whole bunch of stuff going on with it, but I can't help but feel like they got stuck with one experimental gimmick that they put a lot of time into and an experiment in licensing Arnold Schwarzenegger's voice, which probably was
Judgment
still
Day.
fairly relatively cheap but still very expensive for a pinball maker.
Direct hit. Get out.
they call the ball saver auto fire, which is not self-explanatory. And then the replay extra ball says I'll be back.
Don't move.
This is also a table experimenting with showing violence and guns, which a lot of tables are not really around the theme of like lethal violence or violence at all. Like Going Nuts is about collecting nuts. Pinbot is about starting the pinball party zone. It's about having a party. In fact, I'm not sure I can even think of another table that was particularly violent. There was Running from the Cops. That was fairly violent. Arguably there should be like a Street Fighter 1 theme table that would be about kung fu fighting.
Judgment Day.
Arguably there should be a Bruce Lee inspired pinball table that you could probably take a lot of his kung fu movies and make a table off that thing.
Checkpoint 1 secured.
Get really good at that shot. Get really good at not that shot, but that works. This is a table where you would want to nudge a lot more too. Yeah, it does feel like this whole table is telling a story of events that really are just Arnold Schwarzenegger as part of the story without mentioning Kyle Reese. Like, obviously, if you were designing this table, I'd say, well, let's have a scene where we save Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor. We have to have that helicopter scene, which it seems to be completely missing here.
Sequence initiated.
We have to have the final liquid nitrogen scenes and melting people down. That final tragic goodbye, the thumbs up with the exoskeleton. Those are all iconic Terminator 2 elements that are just missing here.
Judgment Day. Direct hit.
And if the idea was that this was all taking place in the future, well, that doesn't make sense because you can see on the table art pictures of them being chased in the past.
Lock sequence initiated.
This feels, knowing Arnold Schwarzenegger as I think most people do by 2021, it feels like his ego influenced the design of the table.
Direct hit.
And if you weren't going to try and use as much of Terminator 2 in the table, then you could have just made a new Pinbot instead. Although Bride of Pinbot only came out probably a couple years earlier from this table.
Point. Get out. Get out. Take your best shot. Fire at will. You missed.
You are in a weird position with the targets on the side there, because you're just never going to have enough opportunities to practice well with the with that launch gun. And that's where Star Trek The Next Generation, I think, improves greatly, is because basically you get a skill shot opportunity using the gun for every ball. So every single game you're 3 times minimal going to shoot with the gun. Where you could easily play an entire game here on this table and never once actually shoot with the gun.
Secured. Lock sequence initiated.
There are definitely some angles that need to be fixed. And part of this is the ramps are just straight and the ramps should be more curved. That fixes everything, really. Yeah. Curve these ramps in such a way that you go up and then to the left. Or up and to the right.
Lock sequence initiated.
Oh, oof. Just... I really should not be able to flick the ball up and then run out of steam. One thing you probably could do if you own this table for real is simply adjust the height of the back part of the table. Make it more horizontal and less slanted. That makes shots considerably easier without really changing much of the other physics of the game. Come on. I'm getting the center standing target shots fine. I'm still
Direct hit.
doing pretty horrible at the ramp shots. Well, I got everything blinking. Now I just need to get really good at the ramp shots. Or just get multi-ball and hope that through multi-ball you can accomplish the ramp shots. But actually on this table you can't do that, can you? Because if you get multi-ball, then it locks the ball. And it's, I don't think, just a case of me hitting both flippers and that taking half the power away. Particularly in 1991, there's no reason why the table should work that way. See, I've been playing for like an hour.
Direct hit.
And it does have some replayability. I'll grant them that. But I am also starting to get a little bit more frustrated with this table than I have with any other table. There have been other tables where I've kind of hated them from the word go, and thus I was not expecting much. But this one feels like it's halfway there. It's just that the table's angles are bad. I don't know what to say about like ad copy or advertisement that says this is one of the best tables ever. Yeah, sure. In all fairness, if you took the thousands of tables that were ever made, this probably is in the top 50, top 20 even. But it's not.
Lock sequence initiated.
It's not in the top 10. I think there is also, at least in my mind, a case of
Big point. Get out.
the potential for pinball being a lot bigger than the
Fire at will.
success of
Lock
pinball,
sequence initiated.
in the sense that I feel like there probably are more pinball tables yet to be made that are really, really good. I feel like anything that was made in 2021, unless it's made by a fool, is gotta be in the top 10 pinball tables to ever existed. It has to take every single idea that has ever been done before and make it even better. Really pull a great amount of success. While also a brand new table in 2021 almost certainly is not going to make anywhere as much money as a pinball table even in 1991 would have made. Well, I tried to nudge there. This is a great example of why tables need, they desperately need two targets to activate one thing.
Direct hit.
It's not even worth your time if you're just practicing to try to go for the skill shots each time.
Get out.
Remember that table that was pretty awful, lights, camera, action, where you did the gunfight? That concept now is totally done better with having a gun trigger for a plunger and an LCD screen where you could have displayed the gunfight. That being said, for Terminator 2, there is no
Fire at will. Great
like
shot.
there is no like Western style gunfight at noon type experience. Like,
Checkpoint 1 secured. Get out.
so I guess it's every ball you lock gives you the opportunity to go for the jackpot, so you get potentially 3
Get
shots. But unless this was going to give me like a quick
Big
multi-ball.
Get out.
We can also see like the sinkhole that launches there does not flash the kickback or the ball saver for a few seconds. Later tables will do that.
Judgment Day. Direct hit.
And basically after decades of testing and introducing better programming,
Sequence initiated.
they start to make the tables easier and easier. Or arguably, in arcade games were either getting harder or the same amount of difficulty and just more expensive.
Fire at will.
Oh no.
Great shot.
And like at a certain point, arcade games stopped being arcade games at all, and they started just being toys for kids. So those are probably fairly easy. But there definitely was a point.
Get that jackpot. Fire at will. Awesome.
I got the jackpot. Good for me. If I could just make one left lane shot. Seriously? This left lane shot is just like impossible to hit for me. I'm sure other people can get it. It's in that last part of the flipper where I never want to let the ball actually go.
Don't
For
move.
fear of something like that happening. And I'm like getting to ball 3 and having everything flash. It's that. Hit that to get up there. Then hit
Load
that.
the cannon.
Ball just wants to bounce off completely.
Checkpoint 1 secured. Video mode activated.
He clearly
Destroy
knows what it's
everything.
gonna give you. Interesting, it didn't bring up the screen, so I'm having to play with the lower left hand area. Interesting. This is a different kind of. This is a different video mode. That was like 20.
Get out. Passcode secured.
See, and I don't know if that was a glitch or if that was intentional. No, that couldn't be intentional because for the actual players playing the real pinball table, they would have looked up instead of had to look at the heads-up display.
Judgment day.
This is kind of a great example of why I probably will never get all the achievements on the pinball tables. It's just too much frustration trying to practice for one
Lock
shot
sequence initiated.
over and over again.
Take your best shot. Fire at will. Great shot. Checkpoint 1 secured.
Still technically am in multi-ball. Trying to unlock the jackpot section. And it's just gonna let me keep on playing, raising the jackpot I think a little bit. Until either this ball drains.
Get that jackpot. Fire at will. You missed.
Well, the good news is I got almost all the center targets hit. Just get the ball where we want it. These flippers just don't seem to roll the ball at the angles I'd want them to hit. Although you can see I'm not really having any trouble hitting the ramps on the right. It's just the one on the left.
Secured.
So if this really was just a case of hitting either of the ramps to activate it and then doubling the number of times I would have to hit the ramps, that would work fairly well too. It's kind of ridiculous that there are so many things you can hit. Like just to have so many different blinking things ready to go. Yeah, and I've kind of run out of anything to say because it's just like make the dumb shot over and over again. That's all I want to tell myself, all I'm trying to do here is just make the dumb shot 5 times.
Direct hit.
And skill shot could probably help me a little bit with that idea. If skill shots, for instance, also let some of those rewards happen. I don't think that worked because I don't think I'd hit the center lane targets enough.
Lock sequence initiated. Take your best shot. Fire at will. You missed.
I really do think the target actually, the gun there actually randomizes its power a little bit. It doesn't feel as consistent as it feels like it should be. And having the heli carrier, or the heli transport, or whatever the helicopter things are on the table seems unnecessary. You could have had a bigger Terminator exoskeleton, although the table's already littered with them. You are in a weird position where the liquid metal exoskeleton probably couldn't be depicted on the table very well for the T1000. But you could maybe have done something like Bride of Pinbot and had it transform, spin a box and transform the T1000 into something, into a different shape. Or at least have something on the back glass that made the T1000 go from the police officer skin to an exoskeleton, liquid skeleton.
I'll be back.
Skin.
Judgment Day.
I know this is all about Arnold's ego, probably, but as something that's trying to recoup the movie, the bad guy in the movie isn't even shown, so who are we fighting? Are we fighting Arnold? Are we playing as the bad guy? That wouldn't make a lot of sense. Feels like there should be a shotgun, because there was a shotgun throughout pretty much the entire movie, but I guess they felt they couldn't go with the launcher looking like a shotgun, or sawed-off shotgun. There's a whole point in P2 where Kyle Reese is also hacking like an ATM. That element is kind of forgotten. Although that also didn't go anywhere, so I can't really blame it for it not to show up on the pinball table.
Hasta la vista, baby.
But this table really does make T2 feel like it is a movie where you just follow Arnold Schwarzenegger spouting some lines and fighting nobody.
Judgment Day. Lock sequence initiated.
And the only thing about the Terminator movies that makes them interesting is a potential good bad guy, and that the fact that they kind of hit their peak in Terminator 2 left them with nowhere to go but down as far as all the enemies after that point. Because if you have some kind of liquid metal robot assassin that can infiltrate and look like anybody you've ever what else can you do to improve something like that? They tried in Terminator 3 to basically have a T-1000 that could turn their hand into a pulse rifle, and then they pretty much in a quick fight broke the pulse rifle enough so then you were just fighting a T-1000 versus Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's a T-800. And then Terminator 4.
I'll be back.
And I haven't seen, I think, Terminator 5.
Judgment Day.
Were all pretty terrible and not really doing anything different. The only thing you can really do with a T-1000 is have a autonomous body that can break up and turn into like two T-1000s that think on their own. Or something that could, I suppose in 2021, if you had something that could hack phones and potentially spy on people through the phones and people's cell phones in their pockets, that would be a different twist. Particularly if you could like do a deep fake and convince people that Arnold Schwarzenegger is the bad guy or Kyle Reese is a bad guy. It would be fairly easy to set off like a fake Amber Alert for Kyle Reese.
Silent alarm deactivated.
But you know what you probably would be better doing is, since every time they make a new Terminator movie, they try to they just retcon everything and say T2 is the only point that the story is legitimate and everything that happens in T3 and later gets erased. They probably should just set it in a different universe completely, where the entirety of the future has been drastically changed, and Terminator's T-800s were made, but nothing else was made to look anything like that, and instead it's like something organic.
Get the extra ball.
Or like a biological virus or something. Although you run into the danger of making a movie like 12 Monkeys. The Sarah Connor Chronicles Fox show that was canceled had an interesting twist in it, in that you were following Sarah Connor during the present time, and there were basically two AIs, a Skynet and a alternate AI,
Direct video mode.
and this alternate AI was actually trying to help the human race. Which, at least at that point, you're fighting fire with fire. And you don't want to go into something like the Matrix, where you're fighting an artificial intelligence. So Skynet as a concept in Terminator 1 and 2 was just thrown out as a boogeyman,
Hurry up. Activated.
and not really,
Let's go.
they're not really something you're supposed to be able to defeat. It would be an interesting twist if you were to make a Terminator where somebody comes back and convinces all gamers everywhere to play this game that is helping fight Skynet or keep it busy. Well, they've got like an AI that they're trying to develop to defeat Skynet in the future. Or you do something crazy and you send the T-800 deep into the past,
Direct hit.
hundreds of years in the past. You have like a glitch in the time travel, and that eliminates technology completely. Then you basically have like a Predator movie where you're fighting something really strong that is isolated from its technology mostly. I think that might work. But on the core of it, the concept is just too simplistic.
Direct hit.
Like, even Skynet's plan of going back in time and
Get out.
killing Kyle Reese or John Connor. Actually, yeah, I've been saying Kyle Reese this whole time. It's John Connor, actually, that the son in Terminator 2. I think. I don't even remember.
I'll be.
I guess we'll just end up playing a couple more games and then that'll be it, because there's not really a lot to say. If I can't get these shots, it would just be... I wouldn't be surprised if it's 4 or 5 hours it took me just to finally get the shots down. But yeah, instead of making a Terminator plot to go back and kill them, it would have been so much easier to simply, at any point, poison Sarah Connor to make her sterile, or break up her relationship, or kill her ancestors. I guess maybe there's an argument that they can't go back any further in time because it takes too much energy. That might be something to think about. You could do a twist on a Terminator movie where Skynet actually,
Judgment Day.
in some alternate universe, actually saves all of humanity and is creating a paradise on Earth with humans. And a glitchy, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, is trying to stop them. Just bring Arnold Schwarzenegger back to being the bad guy, which I don't know if he would really play the bad guy, or even be seen as a bad guy nowadays. He's also just far too old to be in any movies. Come on. I really am trying my butt off here to get these ramp shots, and I just can't pull them off.
Hit the jackpot. Fire at will. Awesome.
Okay, I got the jackpot.
Big point. Get out. Lock sequence initiated.
The ball actually does not roll out on the left side there. I just confirmed that, by the way,
Direct hit.
with the launchers. So, I assume it would just fling the ball for me if I refuse to press any button at all. Eventually.
Get out.
This jackpot just grows and grows and grows. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. I have collected it multiple times. So it's not
Direct
getting to ridiculous levels.
Checkpoint 1 secured.
It
Lock
definitely
sequence
sucks
initiated.
to have a table like this that's licensed and definitely feels like a blast from the past from the 90s, but just is limited by its game flow. Like I could do a lot more with the Party Zone table.
Lock sequence initiated.
So often I'm having to hit both flippers just to keep the ball in play.
Big point. Get out. Silent alarm deactivated.
And I suppose you might create an interesting conversion if you took like the sound effects from this table and put it on a different table, but you'd have to do a lot more work to make a full conversion there. It's like the ball needs momentum before it can go up the ramp. So you have to basically have it go up once and then come back down and then fling it by bouncing that momentum back up. It does very much feel like that. Wow, that was the first time I've made it up that ramp with the left side.
Video mode. Lock sequence initiated.
Go, 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 go. Extra ball
Let's go.
with a hurry up. Bonus
Loop
hold.
again.
Come on. And this is another one of those cases where as soon as I get close to potentially succeeding, I'm gonna get really nervous. Just that
Get out.
instantaneous nervousness, and that's gonna affect my game. Whereas if I just relaxed and
Video
just
mode
tried.
activated. Destroy everything.
What this really is a game of, do you go left or do you go right? You're just kind of having to guess. was a really short
secured.
multi-ball.
CPU. It's payback time. Get that jackpot. Fire at will. Awesome. Load the cannon.
See, that was kind of like a great game, and yet
You are superior.
still would have had to make that ramp. That left ramp is just killer. Just totally killer. I thought the one up there was a indicator that I had made the #1 high score. Actually,
I'll be
that's
back.
an indicator that I'm the first player. Which I guess we could have done 4-player games. A 10 million escape route award. Just not really easy to do. Okay. And we'll see if there's anything here different. I bet the answer is probably no. It is kind of crazy, though, that you would potentially have to come into the operator's menu to potentially turn up or turn down the volume. And any custom thing I do is not going to really matter. It's weird that it has a date and time function in general.
Judgment Day.
It does tell me that there is probably a
Direct hit.
focus there. Wow. And I cannot get the ball to even really go up the playfield with the ball control. The angle on this table is just way taller by even the cheating ball control metrics. Here, I gotta get it over here just to get the ball to have some momentum.
Lock sequence initiated.
I literally cannot get the ball to stay upward. So unless this is a glitch on frame rate, there's a misprogramming here. Yeah, and maybe this is how the table really played, or maybe the Pinball Arcade simply
Best shot.
goofed big time
Fire at will.
on
Miss.
as far as the physics. Yeah, I can't get the ball to go up the ramp. I can't get the ball to go up the center lane. I can't cheat even if I wanted to. Okay, well, I guess that leaves Terminator 2 Judgment Day as a favorite, but I would have to certainly go at it sparingly. Highest scores are in, I'd say, about the 12 billion as far as legitimate scores. And weekly, highest scores that are legitimate, maybe 800 million, but I'd say probably more closely to 200 million, which weekly I'm in the 52nd place overall, I'm at the 34,000th place, which that kind of highlights that not that many people have played this table, really, if you think about it. Like, a number for the name recognition of Terminator 2, there should have been a lot more people playing this table. And considering how many tables were made, there may have very well been a reason, though, that I did not play Terminator 2 that much. And I can certainly see now, after having played it for an hour and 30 minutes, why I wouldn't have wanted to play it that much. It's very one note. It's all about Arnold Schwarzenegger. It doesn't have the liquid metal concept at all. You could have at least had a canister with something that looked like liquid metal mercury in there. Even if you weren't going to do anything fancy with it, it could have spun around and looked interesting. It could have drained out and drained back in. And my Hall of Fame score is 30 from this table, and I got 163 million points. Interesting. So, still not really sure how the Hall of Fame score works. Well, next time we'll hit Addams Family. It may very well be the exact same case. Addams Family may be too much of a license and not much of a pinball game. We very well may find out that one of the remaining 4 of this row of 8 tables is slightly more interesting. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wish list. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.